Hey guys, so today instead of focusing on one band's sound, we're going to focus on an entire genre. The best genre, in fact. So we're going to create a super sick track in real time, and I'm going to, as usual, give you guys all the production and writing tips I can along the way, so let's get going. So I have a bunch of sounds that I've made already loaded up in Cubase here, so I'll try to break each one of these down for you as we go, but we're just going to start with a super heavy metal guitar sound that's comprised of 3 sounds on the left and on the right. Similar to the Limp Bizkit toner if you saw that video. So just quickly, the main sound here is the Neural DSP Fortin amp with a tube screamer in front of it. I know I'm repeating myself a lot with these videos, but these Neural guys should be paying me because I cannot stop talking about how great this amp is. I can always get a good bass sound out of it and then tweak it to whatever kind of band sound I'm going for. So this first tone is... I'm in drop C tuning. It's a very standard metal tone. We've just got some EQs, like taking out some harshness, shaping the low end a little. So yeah, not much to say about that. That's just a good bass for our tone. Now this is, as you guys know by now, this is a trick I always do. Just layer sounds to get different qualities out of different amps. So the second sound we have is kind of like a fuzzy, really heavily compressed and very powerful in the low end kind of tone. And for that, I'm using this Cabin SS11X with just a stock amp in Cubase. This tone isn't that good on its own, but it's just there to support that main tone and just kind of put a load of low end and distortion on top of that. Then we have, again, I sound like a broken record. We have the Corn tone that I did a video on. I do have a bunch of new tricks to show you in this, but right now we're just getting a good guitar sound down, and it's kind of like if it ain't broke. So first, let's find a tempo, and it's easy to remember what tempos to use for new metal because I find the year new metal happened is the tempo, like 98, 99 beats per minute. That's where the bounce is. This is 100. The year 100 didn't have new metal, I don't think, but still. We can get super bouncy with that kind of feel, so let's go with a straight 100 BPM. So I'm just going to start by throwing down a beat with Get Good Drums. This is going to be like a chorus or like heavier drum, and then this duplicate track is, I've just put like the kick and snare a little quieter on the duplicate, so we kind of have a bigger sounding one and then a slightly more reverb as well on the verse one. So we're going to start with this main drum sound. All right, and here's my first tip for you. So the rule with new metal, I mean, there are no rules, and if there are, they should be broken. But the trick that I tend to keep in mind is the snare should be fixed and the kick should be kind of all over the place. And what I mean by that is just have a snare straight on the beat and then kind of let the kick play around. Basically, that means the snare is telling your brain, here's the beat, here's where to bang your head. And the kick is basically telling your brain, there's a shit ton of bounce here still. Like the snare emphasizes the beat and the kick displaces it. So using that formula, we're going with something like this. We'll start with a crash, then go to some hats. And just before we get some guitars down, another good tip for you that not a lot of people do in new metal, but really makes it feel modern and just aggressive. So you can get ahead by doing this yourself. I did this in the Linkin Park beat. I did it in the Limp Bizkit beat. We're going to layer some hip hop drums and some pop drums under the metal drums, so it'll still feel heavy, you'll still hear the kind of crashes and everything, but it'll give us more sub bass, it'll give us more of a modern crispness at the top end. Trust me, you're not going to believe how huge it sounds. So first we have this Drum Pro thing in Contact, which I think was actually free, kind of like a 90s 2-pack kind of thing, and we're going to go super simple. I have another kit I'm using in Drum Pro, so same kind of thing with that. All right, and lastly for drums right now, we have this one that I was talking about in the last video. It's a pop drum kit. You wouldn't think it's good for metal. I keep using this in my metal mixes. It's so sharp and harsh. It really adds power to metal in a way that you wouldn't expect. So let's really support the kick with this one. So you hear how big that is? Like, listen to this without the hip hop and pop drums, and then with. All those hi-hats add more energy. People talk about like phase issues when you're layering kick drums and stuff. You do have to watch out a little for that, but just don't be afraid to try stuff and just use your ears and they will tell you if something doesn't sound right. All right, so now these guys are going to come in and we're going to lay down a riff, and I'm keeping in mind here the snare and the kick, the fact that we've got the snare on the beat and we're going to kind of follow the kick as well with the rhythm. We want everything here to just work together super well rhythmically. So I'm just going to double track on these first two like this. So that's the riff I've written for this. Very dissonant, very kind of groovy. A lot of palm muting and then open power chords. I'm staying towards the bottom of the fretboard, but throwing in a couple of harmonics and that kind of Deftones moment at the end with the power chord add 9. So let's throw that on the right as well. So we have those two tones working together, and now let's just throw down the same thing with the corn effect. So let's duplicate that. Let's have it just go twice. And the first time let's do this. Classic Linkin Park trick. People don't do this anymore, and it's like what everyone started doing in 2000 when it's like, whoa, production is now digital. We can like do anything. People got super creative, and now people don't really do stuff like that. It's a shame. Still sounds fucking awesome. All right, so let's lay down an intro. Let's use just this first guitar track. We'll go for 4 bars, and we'll just tease the riff. So we'll tease those notes, but less heavy. People say nu metal's easy to play. That isn't. All right, so that just gives us some vibe, a little bit of like emo almost. Let's just kind of throw some like noise under it with the other guitar. Just kind of layer it. And then So the purpose of all that intro is just to build tension for the riff. Let's keep the tension going with some drums, and I'll go on to this verse drums track that we have that's a little less intense. Let's just start with simple as possible. And then the second time round, we'll just build up some like hats and snares like this. Take the volume down at the start, build it up. Right, and we're going to throw down the bass in a second, but first I'm just going to quickly lay down a guitar effects track. We'll get into these effects in a minute, but yeah, we have a bunch of really cool nu metal effects tracks. One of the most underrated things about nu metal is the crazy experimentation that was happening with guitar effects. With like P.O.D, Limp Bizkit, Incubus. So let's again just follow the riff, follow the notes, and just add a little bit of atmosphere. So yeah, I'll start breaking those effects down in a minute. Let's get some bass down. So the bass tone, again, similar to the Limp Bizkit video. You hear how there's not a whole lot of high-end clickiness or anything, like it's pretty in the background. I actually got a guitar distortion running pretty hot. Then that's running into another distortion, dark glass. I always use this. And the main part of the sound is this Mark bass amp with everything pretty much at 12 o'clock and just a lot of gain. We then have some pretty harsh EQ, like pulling out the mids, shaping the tone. There's still a lot of mid-range in this, but I just wanted to get it sitting in the perfect place in the mix. So yeah, you can see the high ends all pulled out. And we have a pretty hard compressor going on as well. So you can see that's doing a lot. We want this to be a consistent, modern sounding, super compressed. And we want the bass to just be kind of present the whole time, but not too noticeable. Just really, really powerful, but not up front. And we'll just totally follow the guitar with the bass. And let's just throw quiet bass in the intro halfway through. So now we're ready for a verse, and we're just going to take all that aggression down and get super emotional, melodic, nostalgic, and start using all these effects tracks. I'm thinking P.O.D, Incubus, Limp Bizkit vibe. So again, we'll start with drums, and I'm going to use this quieter track, and let's just start super, super chill in the verse. So we'll keep the kicks going like they were in the riff. We'll have this open hat, pedal hat, some offbeat ride. 4 bars into the verse, let's pick it up a little, but we'll keep it still pretty chill, so keep the kicks quiet. I'm definitely thinking Deftones in terms of the unusual drum groove. And also by displacing the beat so much in the verse, that means that when it gets heavy again and it all comes together on the beat, it's gonna really hit. All right, and guitar-wise, this is basically, again, the Fortin amp. Here's how it sounds completely clean. But from there, we're running into a bunch of effects, and we've got a bunch of EQ again, pulling out all the lows and the highs, so that we've just got this kind of atmosphere without it being too harsh. People tend to put delay at the end. I love putting it towards the beginning of the signal chain, because then you can take the delay and put it through effects and make it sound like underwater. And much as I'd like to give you a formula with this, you'll see with all the other effects tracks, I'm kind of just goofing around with effects and seeing what sounds cool. Like, experimentation with effects tends to sound like nu metal, because that's just what people were doing at the time, especially Mike from Incubus. Shout out to him, because he does not get enough credit for the amount of crazy things he's done with the guitar sound. So let's lay down something a lot more atmospheric and pretty, but still the same key, keeping the kind of same vibe going, but just switching it up a little. And let's back that up with another one of these effects tracks. So I'm gonna, with this one, throw down some chords in the Incubus fans, you know what I'm talking about with Mike. Like, that is such an Incubus sound. And like I said, I mean, I'm using virtually all like stock Cubase stuff except for this amp. Like, so let that be your inspiration to just experiment, because this is just a vibrato. Look at that. That doesn't look cool. Doesn't look like it was expensive because it was free. Phaser. It's just a phaser. It's just a case of experimenting. It's only going to be quiet in the mix, not something you'll even notice, but you'll feel it. It's just like, effects just add emotion. Effects, as long as you don't go too crazy with them, they just add so much vibe. All right, and let's add towards the end of the verse, just to pick up the tension a little. Double it on the right. And I'll print out the audio for that in a minute and turn it down a little so it's just like in the background. Let's throw down some bass on the verse, then we need a chorus, and then we're really getting somewhere. All right, and with the bass here, we'll get a little Limp Bizkit, a little Tool even maybe. I'm gonna use fingers, so bassists can't be mad at me. Let's just keep the vibe going, no aggression, nice and high up the fretboard. Let's quickly just add one more guitar track before the chorus as well, just to build the vibe even more. So we have another effects track here, and it's the same kind of thing, the 14, and this time it's going into a wah, a chorus, the rotary, a chorus again, delay. So it's just another sound. So let's go like this. Have you ever heard anything more new metal than that? So the chorus, we're going to go for a similar vibe to this part. So I'm just going to start by taking these drums and we'll start with the same kind of thing, but just move things around so it becomes something different. So we'll remove some kicks, go a little less rhythmic, change from this hi-hat to this one, throw a second crash in so it's like dun, 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 dun. So that's still bouncy, but it's not quite as like pummeling destruction and insanity. You know, something a little more that you can have like a vocal hook on, something a little more simple. And let's do the same thing with the hip hop and pop drums. Let's just jump in and move things around so that we're following the drums in the chorus. So drum wise, it's quite similar to the main riff, but we're going to change what we're doing guitar wise. So less brutality, less evil, and more Deftones, a little more P.O.D. Keeping the aggression in there with a couple of slides and chugs and stuff, but mainly we're going for something that's just super atmospheric, beautiful, melodic, and I'm making a lot of use of that power chord add 9, which I talked about a lot in the Deftones video. I have no shame about using that chord over and over again. There's just something about that chord. It like has a vibe that you can get close with other chords, but there's just nothing like it. I just want to jump in, guys, and say if you're enjoying this video, hit the like, subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss all the videos I have coming up. If you're a vocalist, I have tracks for sale below, and if you want to work with me, hit me up on Instagram or email below as well. That being said, let's get back into it. And I really want to kind of fuse the vibe of like that heavy riff and the beautiful melodic verse into one in the chorus. So let's just use all these effects tracks. I have this Linkin Park one that I haven't showed you yet. I know that sounds very like, not Linkin Park, sounds like Dream Theater or something. But I'm thinking more like, suddenly it sounds like Linkin Park if you play the right things. So again, we've got the 14 amp, and then this one's just like delay and reverb, a stereo imager. This is just taking the mono signal and making it as wide as possible. And we're gonna lay down something like this. So let's just put that on every track. And that just adds even more dimension to the sound. It just makes it feel so nostalgic, emotional, powerful. Quickly get some bass down in the chorus. Alright, so that's the main part of the song done. We have an intro, a main riff, a verse, a chorus. So I'm going to do my usual magic lazy trick I do, and there you go. So then when we get to the end of the second chorus, we're going to need a bridge, and this is nu metal, so this is obviously the part where we go super tense, build up, and then have a heavy breakdown. So again, I'm going to work smart or lazy, depending on what you want to call it. I like to call it working smart. Just take this from the intro again, build that tension, and then when it hits, we're going to go for a super heavy riff, and we're going to support that with some super heavy drums. A lot of crashes this time. So let's just start with some noise. Now again, we're going to use this trick of teasing a riff before dropping it. So it's going to be a super simple, super heavy, hard hitting riff. And we're just going to use like 2 notes pretty much. It's going to be so heavy. Just building all that tension. Make the listener want it so bad. This doesn't even have bass yet. Listen how heavy it is. Alright, so now we're pretty much done. I need to throw the chorus in again after the bridge and that end riff, and then we are done. So I'll show you guys the full thing in a second. I had so much fun making this. I love new metal. I am glad that it's like having a bit of a comeback at the moment, because when I got into new metal when I was like 10, it was the least cool thing in the world. Everyone hated it. And I just think it's the best thing metal. Like, I love all metal, I love all rock, but something about this era was just so magic with how the digital production came together with, you know, hip hop and rock fusing into one thing finally, and there just hasn't been anything like it since. And hopefully there's some stuff coming in the future that's going to take this kind of sound forward. That's what I'm trying to do here. Hopefully you guys got something from it, got some ideas, got some inspiration. All right, so let's check out the full thing. I'll skip through the parts that repeat, but here it is. Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit, P.O.D, Spineshank, Slipknot, Incubus, Deftones. Let's go.